When we last left off, the Dinobots had actually wanted one thing from the Autobots. Since they are making Optimus Prime a Power Master, they wanted 2 more Dinobots to their team so that they could have, well, more forces. And believe it or not, none of the Autobots disagree with this because, again, the Dinobots have been very helpful and have become some of their closest allies since then. So, believe it or not, we're going to have this happen. Now, this episode called The New Guys actually takes place during, or at least in place of, a fistful of Energon. Keep in mind the Decepticons are captured and all in stasis cuffs, locked up in the Autobot base at the moment. This would even include the likes of Striker, Cyclonus, and Blackout, which are also, were captured by RC and the rest of them in order to get Sari's dad back. So believe it or not, they are able to believe it or not, this is actually a pretty straightforward episode about the Autobots. And believe it or not, I do think we get the Dinobots, along with Flare Up and Ratchet, being the ones to work out with, Optimus Prime's Power Master armor. So Optimus does get that. It's like Wingblade, but it's definitely upgraded. Like, if you go look up the early concept art for Power Master Optimus Prime in, like, TFA Season 4, or a hypothetical Season 4 we should have had, yeah, it looks straight up amazing. Like, I'm telling y'all right now, it just looks amazing. So basically, Power Master Optimus, is still underway. It's gonna take a while here for him to kind of get to that level, but at the end of the day, he will be he'll get it. He'll get it. Right now, they're just kind of working out the kinks and stuff there. So yeah, he's going to have to wait on that for a while. But while Flare Up and Ratchet are helping, make the Power Master armor, this is where Prowl and Bulkhead go with Sari to pick out the 2 new Dinobots that they want to add to their team. Considering the fact that all they need is R-Spark Energy and maybe Ratchet and Bumblebee's, EMP, this is not really going to take long for them to actually make 2 new Dinobots. But who do they pick? Well, believe it or not, they pick a Stygimoloch and a a Utah Raptor. Yes, they pick those 2. And so, when they get back to base with the 2 mechanical dinosaurs, they pretty much just make them almost instantaneously, considering the fact that Sari does still have all-spark energy within her, meaning that she would be actually able to, kind of make this a lot easier with allowing Ratchet and Bumblebee. So the Dinobots now have Slash and Jawbreaker. Yes, I'm adding Jawbreaker. While I do not like Earthspark for its whole wokeness type of media, when it's a show that's really meant for kids and, giant robots killing each other, we still have the fact that, yes, they are, still, what's the word I'm trying to say here? Still capable of producing some good Transformers characters. And I do think Jawbreaker being a Stygimoloch or Pachycephalosaurus definitely fits it. But I'm going to have a Stygimoloch because, again, it is a very underrated dinosaur. And then, obviously, Slash because, got to have a female Dinobot on the team. There's no ifs and buts about it. She needs to be in more things. So, believe it or not, Fistful of Energon kind of does stay... Well, this new episode called The New Guys, the Autobots kind of go around just kind of doing their thing. But again, most of the time they are working out with Optimus, make sure his Power Master armor is ready. Now, what happens on Cybertron? Well, believe it or not, Sentinel Magnus here is still working out his Power Master armor along with Shockwave or Long Arm Prime. Now, I know some people were complaining like, why is Sentinel working with Long Arm Prime? Is he not aware? No, he's aware. He is aware. Go ahead and watch the previous chapters for, a bit more specification on it. But yes, he is aware that Long Arm Prime is, Shockwave and stuff like that. So, some food for thought, honestly. So, still working with him, and he's pretty much overseeing the operations to construct new Omega Supremes. They might say legendary. Wouldn't the Autobots be curious about that? Well, I would probably say yes, and also no. Right now, they are in a more dire strait. Ultra Magnus is gone. The High Council, is dead and everything. And the fact that right now, they think Optimus betrayed them and is working with the Decepticons. Luckily, they still have the Allspark, or otherwise this would have gone, maybe gone differently, and they probably would have maybe believed him a bit more. But for right now, they're kind of just following Sentinel because he is the head of the planet and the only straight shooter that they really have right now. So believe it or not, yeah, Sentinel constructing more Omega Supremes is really not too much of a problem. However, this is where Long Arm Prime notes they are going to need someone to, I guess you could say model these new Omega Supremes after, considering they don't have the original face for it. So Sentinel does offer himself, but this is where Long Arm simply looks at him like, dude, you are the most arrogant and prideful person in the room. Do you really think these new Sentinel Supremes are going to obey you when you wouldn't even obey yourself? And so he's like, dang, yeah, that's actually that's a good point right there. So this is where he actually elects somebody that he trusts, that being Warpath. Yep. Yeah, I definitely think he would be able to convince Warpath that this is for the greater good. Warpath is an elite guard member, and I do think that Warpath would actually be able to do this, and he thinks it's the greater good of Cybertron. So instead of creating Lugnut Supremes like the original, this is where they simply create Warpath Supremes. Yes, with their destructive firepower and everything, and believe it or not, what makes it even funnier, they actually get another weapon. That being Warpath's more satellite cannon is actually turned into a chest cannon. Because you guys got to remember that the TFA Autobots are just, what's it called? They're non-lethal. Yeah, I know it's stupid because, some of them have hammers and swords and stuff. But yeah, they are more defensive than lethal, which again could have costed them the war. So yeah, we're just gonna let society, let them dictate their own society. We'll listen and we won't judge unless the Decepticons just start blowing them up out of the air. So believe it or not, Sentinel at this point does have his Omega Supremes. He has his Combiner. He has Team Athenia, the Elite Guard and stuff. He's got everything at his disposal. However, he wants to make this in his favor, He wants to make himself look like he's the hero, like he's the one defending Cybertron. Classic Sentinel type of stuff. And with him being as acting Magnus, it's enough. But it's not enough on the fact that maybe, just maybe, he thinks that maybe Ultra Magnus wouldn't have chosen him. He would have never given it to someone like Sentinel. Why would he? He always favored Optimus, right? Or at least maybe if he wasn't so arrogant, he could have had it for himself. You see, Sentinel is a little conflicted about the stuff that he's done. But again, his arrogance kind of outweighs that any guilt or any regret he may have about the entire situation. So you could actually say Sentinel is in a little bit of a kind of a regretful state, but again, he's not, regretting it or going, dialing back anytime soon here. So believe it or not, with Sentinel now at the forefront of everything, this means that he has to decide who gets to be a Omega Sentinel, or how the Omega Sentinels are made. And considering the sheer fact that Long Arm has lost contact with Megatron, meaning likely he's failed in his mission on Earth, yeah. This is going to be a very interesting thing because now he's fully fledged working for Sentinel. And well, I gotta say this is actually pretty, it's some irony to it. Because again, you have someone like Sentinel bossing around Shockwave. I know it's absolutely, ridiculous, yet funny, all at the same time. So, believe it or not, how does the creation of the Omega Sentinels go? Believe it or not, Shockwave does need a base for it. And while Sentinel does offer himself, Shockwave simply states that that wouldn't work because they would somehow have your personality. They need someone loyal, someone dedicated to the cause, a patriot, if you will. To which, this is where he actually thinks to himself, who would be the perfect candidate? And he goes and selects Warpath. Now, Warpath being an elite guard member and one of the few loyal Autobots, albeit he still does have his doubt about Sentinel, he thinks that this is actually something that's needed to be done for the greater good. So, without really too much hesitation or even need of, convincing or anytime soon, this is where he does manage to, scan the, does get scanned is what I'm trying to say here. And he winds up creating the, not Omega, the Warpath Supremes. There we go. Come on. It does sound a whole lot better when it's just something more terrifying. I mean, imagine instead of hearing Sentinel Supremes, you hear, the Warpath Supremes are coming. What you mean, Warpath Supremes? Yeah, those things. I think that would actually be more terrifying. Now, while they do have the same way that Omega Supreme is built, they have a little bit of the parts of a traditional Warpath. Meaning they have the cannon, they have the weaponry and stuff like that. They're built. And it's going to be a bad day for anything that just goes in their path there. But believe it or not, Sentinel just feels like he isn't ready. He needs more. He wants to do something a little bit better. And this is where he begins to perfect his Power Master armor. Now, when I say legendary, why is he trying to perfect it? He wants everything good about it. He wants it maximized, if you will. No pun, intended. But yes, he would perfect his, Power Master armor. And I actually do believe this is something that would benefit him entirely. He now has a stronger, faster, and much tougher armor than what could even be created by any Cybertronian in history. Or so he thinks. Back on Earth, Optimus now has his Power Master up and running. But this is also the episode where we get the Society of Ultimate Villainy. Considering these guys are more nerfed than the original, this means that Optimus is able to test out his Power Master armor. And considering the fact that he is more of a, I guess you say, fire truck, if you will, I would definitely say he does have some hydraulic cannons, meaning that his cannons are basically, his water cannons, if you will, are basically like a highly pressurized or basically a hydro pump from Pokemon. He's able to blast highly pressurized water, capable of knocking out and even bursting through steel. He also has the Magnus Hammer, which is now fully responding to him, and he can even utilize it to create low-level shocks, whirlwinds, and everything. So essentially, he tests these all out on these poor and unfortunate villains. Yeah, y'all should have just never came out that day. I'm just sorry. It is what it is. However, this is where we get something a little bit different. Instead of having, Autobot camp, we're actually gonna get a very, very different episode. And this one being human error. Yeah, y'all already know. Because we have to deal with someone else that's here a bit earlier in the timeline. That being good old-fashioned Soundwave. Yeah, we get a Soundwave does appear, and he does hypnotize the Autobots like in the original. However, he also notes that the Decepticons are also there. Every single one of them that originally came to Earth. And so, this is actually one of the more interesting parts about it, right? With that being Megatron. Megatron is badly damaged. He's wounded. He's hurt. And while Soundwave could help him, he doesn't think that, what's the thing about it? I would definitely say Soundwave sees Megatron as weak. Keep in mind, he's not a traditional Soundwave. He's pretty out there. He's very untraditional, unorthodox. And so this is where he offers the Decepticons a different chance. A chance to serve him. A true machine leader, if you will. And basically, some of them refuse, obviously wanting to obey Megatron. These one beings obviously the most loyal ones, that being Lugnut and Striker. However, Soundwave's not really in the mood for a choice, as he utilizes his sonic cannon to kill Megatron. Oh yeah. We already know that's gonna happen. Yeah, I do think that would have happened if Soundwave actually saw Megatron in a weakened state, especially this version. And so, when they don't obey him, he decides to mind control Striker and Lugnut with his Soundwave manipulation, and this pretty much allows him to take over their minds completely. Considering the fact that he already would have protected it at this time by having the Autobots there. However, one slight miscalculation. The Dinobots are not there. They're out and about having their fun on this wonderful Christmas, where Sari is pretty much teaching them and Flare Up the way to give gifts. And this kind of helps Grimlock and Flare Up's relationship, where they actually do try to give each other gifts. However, not hearing back from Optimus and the others for a while, this gets concerning. And yeah, when they get back, they do find out that Optimus and the others have been mind controlled. So this means that Jawbreaker and Slash are about to really get into their first actual fight along with the Decepticons. So I think they I'm just gonna keep it very simple here. They beat the mess out of the Decepticons pretty easily, in my opinion. I don't think it's as bad of a behind whooping, but it's just enough to where it's just like, dang, new guy still got it. We see Jawbreaker going up against Lugnut, Slash going up against Cyclonus, and then there's Starscream, who's enjoying his time under the new leader. And hopefully he can backstab him in the future. We may never know. However, the real challenge comes when Optimus arrives in his Power Master state. And well, this is where we get something else. Grimlock decides to fight Optimus himself, one-on-one, no one interfering at all. He wants the smoke. He wants the fade, and Optimus is just gonna have to give him that fade. Now, while Power Master Optimus is just absolutely, and I mean this in every way, absolutely more powerful, he's not himself. And when Grimlock sees that, he takes full-blown advantage of it. Not only being able to get the upper hand on Optimus, but even managing to actually utilize his own tornado against him, as he now understands that wind amplifies fire. So Grimlock, utilizing Optimus's own cyclone or his own tornado against him, he actually utilizes it to create a much more powerful fire tornado that does singe Optimus, but he does manage to, hold back just enough to where Optimus obviously is in a, not in a near death-like state. Oh, he's injured. There's no ifs and buts about that. He's gonna be injured in this one. I don't think there's really no other way around it. But he's not dead in any way, shape, or form. So yeah, Optimus is damaged, but he's not in a very bad condition. At least not to a whole extent here, but yeah, that still happens. So believe it or not, Optimus is just getting some repairs. Obviously, the Power Master armor now needs to be repaired, but he does commend Grimlock and the Dinobots on their bravery. Now, what about Soundwave and the rest of the Decepticons? Well, this is where they get into contact with Shockwave, with him pretty much explaining that he's the new Decepticon leader. And while I do think Shockwave would be a little apprehensive about this, he does go along with it, as this is where they actually find out that, well, Megatron is dead. Because I mean, with Starscream confirming it, Soundwave also confirming it, and Lugnut and Stryker kind of in a more mind control state. I don't think that, you know, Shockwave is going to be trying to complain to them anytime soon. And if he does, he might just get mind controlled. So it's kind of like it's a no-win scenario for Soundwave on this one. So you might as well just go ahead and obey the new Decepticon leader. And I think that's kind of the mindset he has, where he's just like, all right, what can I do for you, Lord Soundwave? So at this point, this is where we get something vastly, vastly different. We get the invasion of Cybertron. Yes, I actually do think Soundwave would actually do that at the moment. He's going to invade Cybertron. He's going to use his Soundwave manipulation, or sound manipulation, to start controlling Cybertronians. And this allows him to, well, take control of everything, including the Warpath Supremes, now under Warpath's command. As well, he's controlling Warpath. He's controlling the Warpath Sentinels, or the, you know, Warpath Supremes. And so this means one other thing has to happen. Guess who has to retreat for his own well-being? That's right, Sentinel. He makes sure he gets out of there. And guess where he has to go? Earth. And when he gets there, he immediately tells Optimus and Jazz that right now he needs their help. He's practically begging them at this point to help him. He doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know if he can even do this right now. And this is where they ask him what's happened. And this is where he simply states, the Decepticons have taken over Cybertron. And that's where we're going to leave it off here, you guys. Please comment down below, like and subscribe and share with your friends. This is Legendary Grimlock, and I hope you guys have a blessed day.